I know that this video is really late, and I was like 70% done with it before Astralis choked the hell out of Lisbon. And Cadian played one of the worst performances I've ever seen from an in-game leader. But I don't think it really detracts from my point just yet, and I really don't want my efforts to go to waste. So here's the video.
Gets the AWP and kills the guy CT.
Yeah. Oh my god, he's knifed him, and he's gotten away with the AWP. I'm starting to get nervous. There's no way. Cadian, you can't win Pro League like this! You can't win Pro League like this! No way! Oh my god, 30 seconds. Now, Axel's on ramp. He's got 30 seconds to think this one through. A knife kill? You can't. Cadian, he's thinking about ramp. Jumps
Saw him.
Axel gets the info. He just has to hit this shot, and he's done it for Heroic. The leader.
What is the Cadian system exactly? The Cadian system was the in-game calling system used by Cadian to lead Heroic with a bunch of upstarts at the time to a couple of title wins such as IEM Cologne and ESL Pro League in 2020. Even though that was during the online era of Counterstrike, Cadian was able to maintain his form, leading the team through multiple playoff games on LAN and even a major grand final, where they choked and looked flat as hell, but let's not talk about that. A series of underwhelming performances, however, eventually led to Cadian getting betrayed by his teammates, Yabi and Stown, as they schemed to kick him out of the team. With nowhere to go and the Cadian system abolished in Heroic, Cadian sets his sights for greener pastures, except these pastures were not green at all. Cadian establishes his system in a new Liquid Kingdom, only for it to crash and burn into a silver wall. After that, Cadian gets kicked again, and his system is never to be seen. Until one day, a team without a leader starts looking for a leader, and it just so happens that Cadian is available. And what do you know? The Brutuses are in the team as well. Now Cadian joins Astralis, and after a series of trials and tribulations, public scrutiny, and players having illnesses, we finally get to see the return of the Cadian system. So what is the Cadian system exactly? The Cadian system is a high-risk, high-reward style of calling, especially on the CT side, where Cadian takes a very counterintuitive approach to the game. What do I mean by that? Top IGLs in the scene tend to set up their game with a strong default system that is able to cover all bases of a map, meaning while they are not designed to counter any form of specific setup or defaults, they are also not quick to them either. Whenever a site is tested, the result of the round is heavily reliant on the team's protocols, individual decision making, and raw aim. Let's take a look at a standard default in a match between Vitality and Mouse in the ESL Pro League Grand Finals. Zywo and Robs plays a passive A setup in the early round while the rest of Vitality tries to control Banana. After failing to control Banana, Vitality is forced to hover 3 players on B, while they rely on the 2 stars on A to hold. When Mouse goes to control brackets, Robs makes an extremely cerebral play that ultimately won them the round. When the B-side players play aggressively, the A-side players are passive and patient. When the A-side players go for a pick down middle, the B players hold. Now this is the general philosophy that most teams follow. Get information on one side of the map and hold on the other side, never over-rotating until all the information is gained. If you have a team of superstar players like Vitality, Spirit or Na'Vi, this philosophy gives you the most consistent result and is the best way to make use of your star players. But what does Cadian do? Cadian takes these protocols and flips them over the head. He makes calculated risks based on his opponent's defaults. First of all, Astralis values information. While the typical philosophy is for one side to play aggressively and the other to hold, you will often see Astralis make risky information gathering plays on multiple sides of the map. This is for two reasons: applying pressure and conditioning. In round 15 of PGL Cluj semifinals against Mouse, Astralis starts with a smoke center mid, while the B players apply a small amount of pressure on Car, with just a single Molotov. When no pressure is made on B, Astralis then over-rotates to A side with 4 players, leaving Yabi to single-handedly block all forms of B aggression with just 3 smokes. This is not normal. You will only see teams usually doing this when they have full control of banana. This gives the A players ample time to rotate when B is getting pressured. And the 4 Astralis players on A doesn't even fight for brackets control, giving the entire space to Mouse and tempting them into an A side hit. Compare that to the Falcons vs Eternal Fires game, where all 4 players from Falcons are up close in brackets, ready to take a fight when the T's come in. Astralis on the other hand is able to fake a weakness on A, baiting the Mouse players into brackets, only for Astralis to flash in and get a couple of picks themselves, completely outplaying Mouse in the round. And on maps like Mirage, Cadian can easily change up the team's aggression by using a double op setup with Cadian and Device leading the way. This allows them the room to play a lot more passive on the map and take long range fights from safe angles and giving the rifles the fluidity to rotate between sites safely. In essence, the core of the Cadian system is a fluid rotational system sprinkled with a mix of fundamental Counterstrike and high risk calls. Of course, this system does come with its own flaws. It is heavily reliant on a cold read and trusting that the opponents will fall into the trap. If the opponent team reads the strategy, they could easily win the round. On the other hand, if you overthink and try to counter their read, say in this round of the same Astralis vs Mouse match, Cadian caused the stack to be on B side because he thought that the Mouse players would try to read his setup. This call ultimately caused them to lose the round. Even with all that in mind, this system gets harder and harder to use as the tournament progresses. More of the protocols start getting figured out, and teams in the later half of the tournament can easily read your strategy, meaning you need to innovate in the middle of a tournament, which is not only hard on the leader, but also hard on the players. Secondly, for the Cadian system to work, every player in the team needs to be very precise in their communication and fluid in their decision making. However, most of the top teams these days are international, which means that the language that they speak is usually not in their native language, and you will want to try and avoid complex movements around the map that could cause confusion, and instead rely on your protocols to carry most of your game plans. And lastly, the personality in the players. The Cadian system is a system that reduces individual decision making and playmaking ability to a minimum. In mid-tier CS, this is seen as a good thing, which allows teams to be more cohesive and produce consistent results. But in the highest level of Counter-Strike, the X factor of your star players are what makes the difference between a major winning team and just a major finalist. Ultimately, the Cadian system is still a growing system that adapts to the meta, and much like all the other in-game leading systems, it tries to refine itself to be able to compete with the best. And in my opinion, the Cadian system is theoretically the perfect way to play Counter-Strike, where every player is able to fluidly flow between key parts of the map to support or reinforce between sites. It will be like how a team would play if a coach could actively communicate and give calls to a team during a round itself. That being said, that perfect style will never truly be possible in a team just because of the amount of variables in each individual player. Their communication, discipline, decision making and raw aim adds up to that. But even if it might not be a reliable long-term system, I think that the Cadian system is one of the most entertaining and interesting systems to follow, and I am genuinely interested to see what it will look like in the future.